Good afternoon. Well, this is the day after St. Patrick's Day, and by now most of you should recover from images you swear you saw of leprechauns dancing on a table at a local bar. Holly and I listened to some fiddlers at a place in nearby Brunswick, Maryland, and talked to some people through masks. And it's again another step for us to get out. On St. Patrick's Day, I always think back to a Flannery who is from the Sept Flannery that is not directly related to us. And apparently he was prosecuted for running guns to Ireland after having been an active member of Sinn Féin and come to the States. And the case was prosecuted in the Brooklyn Federal Court. And Mr. Flannery himself, his defense was that the CIA told us to do it. And that's what we did. And Begorra, the jury, said yes, and they acquitted him. And then the Irish leagues all wanted him to chair the St. Patrick's Day parade, which meant he would lead it. And that particular year, Senator Moynihan, who represented New York in the U.S. Senate, he had a reception. I was active in politics there, and I was one of many people who went to this reception. And it included some spirits. And then we walked a few blocks away to the parade, where there stood Mr. Flannery at the head of the parade, waiting for the blessing of the Cardinal of New York. And he was not about to give it. And Flannery stood there patiently for, half hour or longer, and then marched the parade without any blessing at all. And he was cheered mightily. He was a thin man in his 70s, forceful, moved athletically, and he knew how to parse a phrase and encourage people to believe and to support him in his efforts. So that's one of my stirring remembrances of St. Patrick's Day. The news today has Trump at 7 a.m. in the morning, although that's not when we first heard about it, or well, not me anyhow. It took until 11:30. But apparently he sent out a message saying his arrest was going to be Tuesday, and he was going to be arrested on the charges out of New York. And he has been going after the prosecutors there, and I have a feeling this was not a step endorsed by his attorneys. And as it turns out, there are later reports of two kinds. One is that the indictment could be as early as Tuesday, suggesting we may finally see one, but we'll wait and watch. And the second thing is that when it happens, it may be as early as Tuesday. The date's not set. And Michael Isikoff, who's a great investigative reporter, has been for many years, he has managed to gather up the information that the Secret Service is negotiating with the defense team for Trump to see how they may handle the surrender of Trump. So we're in a position where this could be it. This could be the historic indictment of one of the worst presidents, well, no, the worst president in American history. Now, we should keep in mind some of the objections to what's going on. Some say, well, the feds didn't prosecute him. What was that all about? And one answer could be, and has been asserted, which is, well, he was president and the Department of Justice believed you can't indict a sitting president. Well, all well and good. But this overlooks the fact that the U.S. Attorney Berman had in fact mentioned Trump, or his assistants did, in the indictment of Cohen, and then he was removed. He was removed because he was going to persist, and Audrey Strauss replaced him, and I've known her for many years ago, and I might have thought that wouldn't have changed anything, but it did. Trump was not indicted by the feds. So there's a kind of justice if D.A. Bragg goes forward, as appears to be the case, given the activity in the grand jury. And I wondered why he has people in the grand jury covering such detail. The normal way, in my experience, is to have a witness whom you're preserving in a transcript, to have it detailed just enough so that you have them on the record. And you have to be concerned that they'll stray. And you also have to be concerned if you're creating material that will contradict what they say at trial. And when I say that, I mean that you make an error in how you do it. All of that said, there's been very active grand jury work, and Michael Cohen sounds like he wins the prize for being before the grand jury the most number of times. But the thing that warms my heart is the notion of a perp walk of Trump. Now, they're going to negotiate how he comes, because a normal person, when they show up, and I assume he'll show up in New York rather than have them arrest him or try to present him to a magistrate down in Florida. So I assume he'll fly in, and he'll go through a back door into the courthouse. And the question is, will he be fingerprinted, photographed, kept in a jail cell before he goes to court, in irons? And I like that notion because that's what should happen to every man. So if no man is above the law, certainly this man is not. So there's that. And I have this wonder about DeSantis, who's so concerned about the content of what kids are studying in his school, and whether he'll want to exclude references to Trump's arrest, indictment, prosecution from their advanced placement history. Now, keep in mind that Trump, when he spoke, well, when I say he spoke, when he sent out his twittering tweet this morning, he said to his followers, protest. Now, what does that evoke? Protest. Take our nation back. He's suggesting coercion at the least for those who would cooperate with this prosecution. He is waving a bloody flag, if you will, for the unwashed millions who support the monarchy that he seeks to institute, the autocracy. So what is Garland doing? Has anybody nudged his rocking chair to say, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to ignore this statement? Does it mean nothing after what it did mean for January 6th, which you've done nothing to get off your lazy rear-end quarters? And the answer is, he'll probably do nothing. He should at least have somebody go out and say, you're on notice. If you do anything at all to coerce or hurt anyone, we're going to put you in irons. And could he do that? Yes, he could. There's a real danger to the community. So, if I have anything to say, it is that we're at one of these points in which if we do nothing, we put the democracy even further at risk, particularly after this early morning series of threats implied and directly stated. We are going to either reserve this republic and this democracy, or we're going to lose it, and instead we're going to have this madman or some other criminal of his type in the White House. It's time for a reckoning. This case is it. Let's go forward and let's be done with it. So here I am talking to you from my cathedral of trees, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.